Good morning, my beautiful brothers and sisters in Yeshua. Today is Friday, the 26th of April, 2024. It is 10:39 a.m. here in Australia. I hope you're all very well and I hope you've been blessed. Today's video is going to be a little bit of everything. Basically, I want to show you some evidence and proof of what I have claimed in my last couple of videos, to show you that, I really do not just pull this out of a straw hat. I really do a lot of research, and basically I just want to back this up with evidence of why I say the things that I say. And I think it's so important now, brothers and sisters, that we realize that we're living in the greatest deception of all time because we are so close to the end. And as it says that, we need to be Bereans. We need to see if these things indeed be true, what we're told. Okay? It's not a sin to ask questions. Okay? It's not a sin to ask questions. Father wants you to know that what you believe is truth. And same with Jesus. He wants you to know that his words are true. He wants you to know what he has spoken and warned us ahead of time is true, and for us to pay attention to Jesus' words only, because he told us enough that what we need to know, okay, and who to look out for and the deception that was coming. So with that being said, I want to show you some evidence to back up. In my last couple of videos, I've said that the book of Revelation was basically a hoax, okay? It is the elite's playbook where they can instill fear continuously over and over and over again every time they feel like Christians are coming down off their rapture parties. Basically, they can bring something else out. Like, for example, now we have like a white horse with blood all over it. The royal horses, trampling all through London or wherever it was, and now this is going to be a whole new, this is, Jesus is coming back now, and this is a sign of Revelation and the four horsemen and all this stuff. They're doing this on purpose, brothers and sisters. We have to realize that the book of Revelation is a Masonic Freemason addition to the Word of God. Okay? It is there to instill fear and to constantly cause distractions. And, look over here when right in front of you is the truth, okay, which is the words of Jesus. So because I've made that claim that the book of Revelation is a Masonic, Freemason, Illuminati edition, I've got some stuff to back it up now to show you how connected Judaism is with Freemasonry. They are one and the same thing, okay? And this is exactly what I explained, where the doctrine of the virgin birth comes from. It all stemmed from that Council of Nicaea, okay? They're all one and the same. The Jews, the Romans, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, they're all one and the same. They've just got different names and different offices, right? So what I believe happened, and this is what was put on my spirit. You can disagree with me all you like, but from my studies and my research and my prayers with the Father, the reason this has happened is all these extra doctrines. Like, for example, let's just talk about the birth of Christ from a virgin birth, okay? Jesus is quite clear to say that he was sent from the Father, okay? He was sent from the Father, and he was hidden. He was hidden in the scriptures, basically, to a time such as the time that he should come. And it even says in the scriptures that if the princes of this world had known what Jesus was going to accomplish on the cross, they would have never crucified him. Jesus was hidden for such a time as this, and he was sent by the Father to come down and this is why, again, the gift that Jesus gave was so beautiful, is because he could have just stayed with his Father on the right hand side of his throne, okay, and he could have just let this all play out. But a beautiful sister of mine, she had some wonderful revelations last night, and she sent them to me in voice recordings. and they were absolutely beautiful. I can't explain it as good as she can, but basically she was saying that, Jesus never had to die. It was because the Jews and all of the people who were under the Yahwehian covenant, okay, from Yahweh, and all that bloodshed and all the sacrifice and all the destruction and the showing no mercy, and God, and with all these flames and fire and destruction and annihilating man, woman and child, that's what they knew, okay? And Jesus came, like he said, to save the lost. He came for Israel to save the lost. Okay, and Jesus literally gave his life for them because, the Gentiles, as it says, that it was taken, their house, the Jews' house was left desolate to them, okay, because they continued to reject Jesus, and it was given to a nation, the Gentiles, okay, because we would believe without seeing, and, we just had the heart already. Okay, this is why our names were already written in the book of life, okay? But Jesus showed them that even a sacrifice, a bloody tortured sacrifice that he did on the cross still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough, but he still did it for the sake of a few. He still did it for the sake of a few. Okay, and that was, his small handful of disciples and apostles that followed him. But everybody else rejected him, right? But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So what I'm trying to say is Jesus was sent by the Father. The virgin birth, the immaculate birth, or whatever it's called, the veneration of Mary, that's all a Council of Nicaea doctrine that was formed at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This and the Trinity doctrine, okay, this is why I speak so passionately about why I think the Trinity is blasphemous, brothers and sisters, because it all comes down to the same thing. It is all taking away about who Father God is. And Jesus came to this earth to let us know who the true Father in heaven is. He's not this evil Yahwehian dictator God that loved blood sacrifices and bloodshed and genocide and the countless billions and trillions slashing the throat of animals and all that kind of stuff. That's not our Father in heaven, okay? But Jesus came to show us that our Papa, Abba, he loves us with an undying love, with an unconditional love. And you know what really helps me, brothers and sisters? If you ever wonder, or if you feel like, oh, well, what's next? What does all this revelation and unveiling of the truth mean? What does it mean for us now? Go and watch near-death experiences, okay? Because no matter from where you come from any person, they can be atheists, they can be Christians, they can be Muslims, they can be Jews, whatever. Okay, whatever fraction of life you come from, they have the same story. Okay, they come into the presence of something, a source that is so overwhelmingly full of love, and they feel so accepted, and everything else just fades away and just doesn't matter. You realize the whole ego self and everything just fades away. If you need encouragement, go and watch near-death experiences. I absolutely love them. They fill my heart with such joy to have a little glimpse of what is in store for us, brothers and sisters. And just the people's testimonies of what they see there, what they feel there, how it's just so perfect. Like the colors are like nothing on this earth. Everything is just so beautiful. So I find a real uplifting, I just find a lot of just happiness and joy in listening to these stories. So getting back to the video this morning. So with saying that, the birth, and this is why also the birth of Jesus, not the birth, the only mention of Jesus being 12 years old is in the book of Luke, and then it doesn't speak anything else until he's like 30 and he gets baptized. Okay, so to me, brothers and sisters, Jesus was just sent as a man, okay? As the time, just before the time he appeared was just before he got baptized. This is why John the Baptist was there. He was preparing the way for the Lord to come. And, he was prophesying. And you can see in the Word of God, brothers and sisters, you can see in the Gospels, it says that John was the last prophet. There was no need for anybody else. There was no need for Paul. There was no need for the book of Revelation. John was the last prophet, speaking of the one to come, which is Jesus, that was going to fulfill everything completely, 100%, no questions asked. There was no need for somebody to come after him, like Paul, and say, oh, by the way, my gospel is heaps better, follow me. And we're going to get into Paul a little bit later on, because I want to show you so many things. And anyway, so what I'm trying to say here, brothers and sisters, is all this added stuff, the birth of Jesus, him being 12 years old and all, all this stuff is all added. All of the books from Paul, because I will show you and prove to you through the scriptures and through what Jesus said that all of this stuff was added. Okay, all of this stuff was added from the church fathers because, and I'm talking about the Nicene, and, wicked men that were like, oh, crap, Jesus did this great thing. What are we going to do about it? They had to convene together. They had to come up with a plan, brothers and sisters, and the Council of Nicaea was it. Okay, they decided to make doctrines, and I read to you in my last video where the book of Revelation comes from, and where the whole theology of the millennial reign, that's a Jewish ideology of, having this 1,000-year reign of the Messiah where all these earthly, fleshly pleasures will be given to people, i.e. the Jews, the Israelites. This was their doctrines, okay? It's written in the Talmud. That's what they thought that Jesus was coming to do. They literally thought he was going to come and establish a kingdom on this earth. And Jesus himself says, the kingdom of heaven is something you cannot observe or look around, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. Okay, there is no millennial reign where Jesus is going to come down and we're going to just, be, little gods beside him and rule and reign and put everybody under the iron rod and boss them around or whatever. No, brothers and sisters, this is a Jewish ideology that was weaved into Christianity like a lot of things have been. So, with that being said, in my last couple of videos, I made the statement that the Jews and the Romans, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, they're all one and the same, okay? So they got together and decided, because they couldn't remove or get rid of what Jesus did, okay, which was perfect, 100%, completed it all, they thought the best thing we can do is we can add a string through the Old Testament. And the very first thing in Matthew, in the genealogy of Jesus, it says, that Jesus is the son of David. Okay? This is absolute crap. Jesus himself said that he is not David's son. He denied it fervently because he was sent by the Father. So this is what the Jews did. Straight away, they added their bloodline onto Jesus because they wanted to be part of the kingdom of heaven, right? And you can read, it goes further on into the New Testament where it says that, that these Pharisees and Sadducees, they weren't going to enter into heaven. And because they weren't, they were forbidding everybody else to go in as well. Because they were like, well, if we're damned to hell, then everybody else is coming down with us. And that's exactly what they're still doing to this day. Okay? So, with that being said, you can see why they've added, up until Jesus' baptism, up until Jesus' baptism, like genealogy and things like this, Jesus was not born of a virgin. Again, people who haven't seen my videos, they're going to go straight to, what about Isaiah 7:14? And we'll go there quickly, just so that I can prove, because I have to do this each time. This prophecy in Isaiah, 7. Okay, this prophecy in Isaiah 7, verse 14, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Okay? No one considers even to continue to read the verse, or the verses behind it. Read the whole chapter in every verse you're trying to prove, brothers and sisters. This is nothing to do with Jesus, but everything to do with Isaiah's son, who is revealed in chapter 8. Okay? And this is Isaiah talking, and I went into the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. And then said the Lord to me, call his name, and I'm not even going to pronounce that name because it's too hard. Okay, for before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoils of Samaria shall be taken away before the kings of Assyria. Did this happen, brothers and sisters, at Christ's time or Jesus' time? I'm going to try and stop saying Christ. No, it didn't. Okay, let's continue on down here, back in chapter 7, verse 14. It goes on to explain, butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. But before the child shall know how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that though abhorrous shall be forsaken by both of her kings. See, no one reads the rest of this. What the church fathers, the modern day church fathers, the Pharisees and Sadducees of our day, they just tell us one verse and say, yes, this is a prophecy of Jesus, or Jesus is all through the Old Testament. No, he's not. Jesus was hidden. Okay, Jesus was hidden. Jesus was manifested in the New Testament. Jesus was manifested to destroy the works of the devil. Okay, and like I said before, if the princes of this world knew what Jesus would accomplish on the cross, they would have never crucified him, because he was hidden, brothers and sisters. This here, the word virgin, is actually a maiden, for starters. And, but no one questions these things. So, where are we? Now, so with that being said, my statement today, that I'm feeling very confident with because of the study, because of the research, because of the prayer, is that the Jews, Freemasons, Romans, Illuminatis, different heads of the same snake, they have concocted the, this snake, serpent that has wrapped around and tried to, but it can't get to, the wonderful words of Jesus. That's all we need to know. The Old Testament, I've done many videos now, especially the last couple. If you want to go back and look again, the Old Testament God, Yahweh, is not our loving Father in heaven. Okay, He's not our loving Father in heaven. And Jesus even says this. He says to the Jews, you are of your father the devil. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. Okay, liar and a murderer from the beginning. What type of God demands sacrifice? What type of God demands the slaughter of innocent animals? What type of God demands virgins for himself? Brothers and sisters, let's not get back into that, because that will take a lot of time to go back into. But, so, with all that I've just said, sorry to build it up so much, but I really need you to understand that Masonry, Freemasonry, everything like this is a lot to do with it. And what really started me on this journey is Revelation chapter 2, where it talks about the church of Ephesus, okay? The church of Ephesus talks about the 7 candlesticks that so-called Jesus stands in the middle of the 7 candlesticks, right? And I'm like, right, okay. does the menorah, because that's what it's representing, right? Does the menorah have anything to do with Freemasonry? I study that, and oh my goodness, the gates come flowing open. Okay, the gates come flowing open. So let's have a little look into that, and you go off and do more studies and find more stuff. Okay, so here we have just a picture here. Memory Lane, Menorah, Masonic Temple. Okay, this is Bonos Zion of Bov, has been housed in what was once Menorah Temple, which has a storied history. While the cornerstone for this majestic edifice was laid in 1927, we find that in 1929, Menorah Masonic Temple marked its 25th anniversary. They likely organised 1904, and eventually they were able to erect this building at 5014th Avenue. According to one account, the cornerstone came from blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then a sister had sent me this, and I'm sorry, I tried to look through my emails, but I can't remember which sister it was that sent me this, but this is the Masonic Encyclopedia, Israel Freemasonry. I mean, brothers and sisters, it's one and the same. And this is why the Jews and the Israelites and the Muslims, okay, because they all worship the same God, and even now Christians, because they just hop on board on the Jewish and Muslim train, okay, and they're like, the slither of the moon indicates the first day. This is a Baal, Allah. It's the moon god, brothers and sisters. It's the moon god, and this is why they have the crescent moon. It's all a Babylonian, it's all Babylonian. You need to come right out of that Babylonian religion. Go and research. I don't know how much information's left now, but there was a video, and I'm going to try and find it. It was in the 1970s or the early 80s, where this guy, he went, on a tour to the Jewish Institute, to their library, right? And it had all the original series books of the Talmud, like all the Jewish writings where they would philosophize, and, they would talk about what God means and what this means, and, they put it into a series of books. But this is the stock standard, the hierarchy thing what the Jews will go by, okay, is the Talmud. Now, in the Talmud, brothers and sisters, this is what this guy said, and he showed the verses, and that's why I said it's probably not around anymore. But they literally gave permission to, as long as the child was over 3, they could, okay? Brothers and sisters, and it gets way worse, but I don't want to spend time talking about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's there. It's in plain sight. Okay, the whole, child sack, whatever. It's all there. It's all run through history. Look at today. Today is just as evil, where they have now abortions and, the trafficking and everything like this. It's all just come through under a different guise and a different name. They're all one and the same. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, they're all one and the same. The Grand Lodge of the State of Israel. Okay, this is a Freemasonic symbol. And thank you to my sister. I apologize, I can't find your email to give you credit for that, but you know who you are. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so reversing the curse. I put this in my thing yesterday. I can't remember because I saved so much stuff, but we'll watch it anyway. And maybe it'll come back to me why I saved this.
It's been lying, but we're about to get to the bottom of it. There's nothing slick to a can of oil. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. I'm starting to think that time is a prison. We already talked about the phantom time hypothesis, where they created 200 years of history out of the blue, all lies. But in order to stay in control of time, what must be done? Watch this. Now, what if I told you the people in power worship deities such as Saturn and Moloch? Book reference. As per Leviticus chapter 18 verse 21, you shall not give any of your children to offer them to Molech, and so profane the name of your God. I am Lord. Saturn, one of the titans who once ruled Earth in Roman mythology, devours the infant children he holds in his arms. According to a prophecy, Saturn would be overthrown by one of his sons. In response, he ate his sons as soon as they were born. But the mother of his children, Rhea, hid one child, Zeus. So we spoke about Saturn and Moloch, right? One, the Most High told us not to offer our children to. The second one ate his own children. Now watch this. On this day, we remember that some 460,000 children go missing from the United States every year. And we take this opportunity to remind ourselves of both the scope of the challenge before us and the depth of our collective commitment to the safety and welfare of America's youth. Office of Justice Programs Assistant Attorney General, Amy L. Solomon. Interesting. What if I told you the truth is always hiding right in front of your face? But let's stay focused. Solomon, soul, sun, mind, moon, sun and the moon, okay? Psalm 104:19. He made the moon to mark the seasons. Remember. All right, so we know the sun and the moon are both necessary in order for us to tell time, right? The way that we do. But something's just not sitting right with me. So according to Apollonius Rhodius, the Argonautica, right? Arcadians lived even before the moon. What? But here we are with the moon to mark the seasons. But time is not just linear. Once you open your eyes, you'll begin to realize that there's dimensions and levels to everything. Sator arepo tenet opera rotus. The farmer, arepo, works the wheel. And that wheel just so happens to be the zodiac. And that brings us to Aeon, or Eon, right? A Hellenistic deity associated with time, the orb or circle encompassing the universe and the zodiac, okay? The time which Aeon or Ion represents is perpetual, unbounded, ritual, and cyclic. All right, I told you, time is a prison, and I'm gonna break it all down. Stick with me to the end. This is a series that I'm gonna break down in a few episodes, but it is worth every single video. So watch them all completely through. So here goes another depiction of Aeon, all right? The imagery of the twining of the serpent is connected to the hoop or wheel through the Ouroboros, a ring formed by a snake holding the tip of its tail in its mouth. The 4th century Latin commentator Servius notes that the image of the snake biting its tail represents the cyclical nature of the year. And the Ouroboros is often interpreted as a symbol for eternal cyclic renewal, or a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The snake skin slow thing symbolizes the transmigration of souls, right? And transmigration is literally taking one soul and putting it into a new body, over and over and over again. All right? It's cyclic, ritualistic, perpetual. And here goes another depiction of the Ouroboros, which brings us back to Saturn with the 6-point star, okay? And Saturn is Kronos, all right? The leader and youngest of the first generation of Titans, the divine descendants of the primordial Gaia, Mother Earth, and Uranus, Father Sky. He overthrew his father and ruled during the mythological Golden Age, all right? Saturn ruled during the mythological Golden Age. All right, here goes a depiction of the Golden Age. And if you see right here, you'll see Satya Yuga, all right? And in Sanskrit, Satya means truth. So the truth is what will set you free, right? And we're all here for the truth, aren't we? I have a lot for you. Like I said, this is coming to you in series, all right? Episodes, this is a series, all right? So stay tuned. And the Golden Age is also the age of Aquarius, okay? And Saturn ruled in the Golden Age. Keep that in mind. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens, and let them separate day from night, and let them be for signs. And we found a sign. Where is Saturn? Well, Saturn is currently in the constellation of Aquarius, and will actually be in Aquarius for over 2 years, all right? It started last year, January 17th, all right? And it'll end in March 29th, 2025. So tell me right now, between that time and today, everything you've manifested, hasn't it been happening just like at the snap of a finger? And for everybody that's extremely spiritual, haven't you been really careful with the way you treat other people, knowing the quickness of the response of the Most High of how these things come back to you? Signs of the times. Oh, what a time to be alive. And all that's happening at the same time as this. Let them be for signs. Scholars discovered the alpha A symbol originates from the Greek aleph symbol, which originates from the Egyptian apis bull. This is Antipas of Pergamum, all right, who was martyred, tortured. And when he was faced with the torture, he said, bring on the bull. I'd love to see him face to face, right? On my journey to find Christ.
All right, so that's exactly why I saved it. I have long thought how bizarre about time. You know, everything else, we have meters, kilometers, liters, milliliters, everything's to the 100, to the 10, to the 100, to the 1,000, you know, a perfect 10. And then along comes time, and it's 60. And how convenient. It's the same thing with the book of Revelation being, you know, the 66th book. How convenient. You know, in Genesis 1, with all that creation of, you know, millions of men and women created in the image of the Elohim, you know, that was on the 6th day. And they say there's something to do with, you know, humans have 6 atoms, 6 protons, and 6 something else, neurons or something like that, 666. And, you know, all this stuff. So let's go on to the next one. Oh, yes. And so in my last video, I was talking about, you know, it's amazing that the Freemasons have, you know, like the 6 keys of Solomon, right? And I said it's amazing that the book of Revelation has 6 seals. And then someone was like, but it has 7, so you obviously don't read your Bible. And yes, okay, that was my mistake, but you know what, it just made me look into this, and I realized that it's actually their number, brothers and sisters. 7 is a huge number in Freemasonry, okay? And because we think, oh, it's all to do with God. And, 7 weeks, the seventh day, the Sabbath comes from Satan, Santa, Sabbath, they're all, like that guy just explained, anyway. So that way I found this, the 77s, and this is all in Freemasonry, so we'll check this video out too.
This out. The Pentagon was built on the 77 longitude. It has 7755 100 windows. It's 77 feet tall. It was hit by Flight 77, which was in the air for 77 minutes. The Doomsday plane was Venus 77, which took off 7 minutes after the first plane crash. The world hit on the 77th floor. There's 2977 victims. George Bush was 77 years old. He was put in charge of the CIA in 1977. George W. Bush continued to read my...
Sorry, I just had to pause that because it said about George Bush being 77 years old. Who else was 77 years old when they were inaugurated? Trump. Okay? I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, they are all heads of the same snake, different heads of the same snake, and they're all working in collusion together to bring about the demise, because they know they've got one final shot, brothers and sisters. Like I said, the Pharisees and Sadducees of old, they knew that they were damned to hell, right? They knew they weren't able to go into the kingdom of heaven, so what are they going to do? Take everybody else with them, okay? And this is why they shut up the kingdom of heaven to everybody with all this institutionalized, biblical scholar doctrines and theologies that get passed down century after century to keep us in this prison of thinking, oh, whatever the pastor says, whatever the priest says, whatever the preacher says, that is amen. That is the stock standard of the revelation. Whereas Jesus was very clear on the little children, the little children, they're angels in heaven, stand before the face of God and see, okay? So don't you think for a moment that a little child is so much closer to the Father in heaven and to Jesus than we are as adults, because we've been deceived and led on this path and everything like this. So if a little child is able to understand the simple words of Jesus, and they are simple, okay? You don't need anybody to teach you that except for the Holy Spirit of the living God. Okay? That is what teaches you in all truth. Okay? Is Father's Spirit. The Holy Spirit isn't a man, like the Bible will call him a he. He's not a God. It's the Spirit of the living Father, brothers and sisters. It's our teacher. It's our way of communication. When Jesus died on the cross, the temple veil, which was blocking the Holy of Holies, okay, which is in the Old Testament represented, where God resided, okay, Jesus was showing us the correct way to get to Father in heaven. Not through all their sacrifices and rituals and crap that they still hold to this day. But he broke that veil, okay, tore it in two, and we are now allowed to come before Father in heaven's holy throne and commune with him and have conversation with him and ask him and pray with him and cry with him and be happy with him, be joyful with him. This is so beautiful. So I just wanted to say Trump was also 77 years old, and everybody made a huge thing. Oh, look, he's 77. He was called by God. Anyway, we'll continue on.
Petco for 7.7 minutes. The USS George Bush aircraft carrier's designation is 77. Boxcar with shops Fat Man on Nagasaki was painted 77. The Georgia Guidestones were right next to the Route 77, which is right next to the 777 farm, which the nearest towns are 7 miles in each direction. Obviously, Liber Oz was written by Aleister Crowley. That's book 77. Anton LaVey had 77 infernal names. John McClane was rescued by Task Force 77. Gabby Gifford was shot next to Arizona Highway 77. Kobe Bryant's daughter was Gigi, that's 77. Malaysia flight that disappeared was a Boeing 777. The 77th United States Congress declared World War II with Public Act 77. Let's see here. The House Joint Resolution 77 was what authorized military force against Iraq in 1991, and Operation Desert Storm took place on the 77th longitude. There was 11 77 sailors on the Arizona and Pearl Harbor. 9/11 is 77 months after Oklahoma City. 9/11 was 77 months after Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols used aluminum powder, which increases effectiveness 77%. McVeigh escaped in the 77 Ford Mercury. Obviously, Mercury in alchemy is a destroyer. He was arrested 77 minutes after the bombing, and they released a 77-page report.
All right. Anyway, I will try and link this down so you can watch it for yourself. But yeah, we don't need to hear, their continuous rituals and stuff like this. But brothers and sisters, this is how much we've been deceived. 7 is God's number, and all this kind of stuff. And this is why Trump was a man of God, because he was 77 years old and 7 months when he was inaugurated to become our president. In the last video I showed you on one of the TikToks, it talks about the obelisk that stands in Washington, D.C., and all in the Vatican and all that kind of thing, and what their rituals are every time a new president comes. They try and ritualistically summon the soul of Osiris or something like to that nature, okay, into every president, and they're hoping that one of them will stick. And I can guarantee you it's probably Trump, okay, because he has played the people. I've never seen, I've only been here for 43 years, and I'm an Australian, I'm not an American, but I've never seen such a great love and reverence and whatever for a man. Like these people, he has books written about him calling the second coming of Trump, and that Trump is the chosen one and all this rubbish, and he doesn't deny it. And he's coming out with all these med beds and, I'm freeing the children and everybody's going to have this wonderful amount of money every month, and, the quantum computers and will give everybody new life. And, oh my goodness, how much can we be deceived and not see what's about to go down? It's constant choosing every day. Who is your father in heaven? Who is your father? And who is your Messiah? Okay? We've got to make that choice every day. All the Christians today, but not all of them, the majority, 98% of them today, are continuously sidetracked and delusioned with, these red heifers and, Passover and all this stuff that Jesus did away with. All that evil sacrifice, that bloodshed that Jesus gave his life for, when he could have been quite happy in heaven, sitting at the right-hand side of his daddy. He gave that all away to try and reach their heart, pull at their heartstrings, but they still rejected him. It's like, I responded to my sister who shared me this wonderful revelation, about, Jesus didn't have to die. He did it because he loved Israel and they were lost. It reminds me of, when Jesus went into the temple and he read from one of the old books, Isaiah. He said, I've come to free the captives. Actually, I want to go and have a look at that real quick. Okay, so this is what Jesus read in the temple, okay? He opened up the scroll and he read in the temple, so that he was trying to give some kind of understanding to these Jews and these Israelites that were like so trapped within the old Yahwehian laws, okay? And he said, and the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering the sight to the blind, and to set liberty to them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Okay, and then he closes the book. Okay, and I'm about to show you in Isaiah where this is read from. There's actually one more verse that comes underneath this, which was very important. But I want to note here, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me. Okay, here's the Messiah, because Jesus was the Messiah, the one who was to preach the gospel to the poor, okay, the good news to the poor, and to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives. This has two meanings, brothers and sisters. The Jews, the Israelites, were in captivity. They were captive by Yahweh, the old satanic system of things, which had to be done by sacrifice, had to be done by forced worship, and all this kind of stuff. Okay, not only was it to the actual people of that day and age that were held captive by these lies from their father, the murderer and the liar for the beginning, but also too, when Christ died, when he took his last breath on that cross, he went into the belly of the earth. He went to Abraham's bosom, where all the people of God, even though they were lied to and put into a web back in the Old Testament, there were still men of God, which were, Moses and Abraham and Isaac and all of those, okay? Please understand me, brothers and sisters. I'm not saying that any of the prophets were satanic. They were under deception, okay? They were lied to, but their heart thought that he was the right God, and they were just trying to do what was right, and to appease him. Okay, and this is what our Father in heaven looks on. He looks upon the reins of our heart. This is why nothing matters. None of the traditions matter. It doesn't matter what your Sabbath day or holy day is. And it doesn't matter what you eat and what you drink, because all of that's just, a shadow of things to come, which is Jesus. Okay, none of that matters. What matters is that the person's heart, if you truly think that, that you are worshiping the one true God, and you've been lied to by such a high force as Satan, then, Father has so much mercy and grace upon you that these people were, when they passed on, they went into Abraham's bosom. It was like a holding place, okay? It was like paradise, a holding place for them until Jesus came to this earth and did these things, to preach the gospel to the poor and to heal the brokenhearted. So Jesus, when he went into the belly of the earth and went into Abraham's bosom, the holding place for all these people who really truly loved God, but were just under a lie and under deception, Jesus literally went to preach to them and said, I am the Son of God, and this is your Father in heaven is the true God. What happened to you? You were under deception. You were lied to. This is the true God. Everybody who accepted, which is probably everybody that was in Abraham's bosom, okay, because their heart was already in the right place. They all accepted, brothers and sisters, okay, these people in Abraham's bosom. They all accepted what Jesus said, and they were freed. They were no longer captives. And this is why on Jesus' resurrection, he was the first to be resurrected, right? Because he was the first of the resurrection, okay, the first fruits. And then it says after his resurrection, the graves came open, and many of the saints that were asleep came out of the graves and went up to the holy city. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this was all Abraham, Isaac, Moses, all of them, right? They all went up to heaven to be with the Father. Okay, and this is the amazing truth of this all. Now, again, when he says to preach the acceptable year of the Lord, so again, he closes the book. But in Isaiah, where this comes from, 61, okay, it says, the Spirit of God, the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that they were bound. Where was that, brothers and sisters? Where were they imprisoned? On earth and in Abraham's bosom. It was a prison because they weren't completely home. They were in a holding place. And they were able to get out of that prison, and they escaped by coming up after Jesus' resurrection, and they went up to the holy city and appeared to many. Okay, and then he continues to say, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. So in Luke, he shuts up the book then, but it continues to say, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirits of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. Okay, that is the rest of that. But I want you to take note, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. Okay, this is a lot to do with Matthew 24. Matthew 24 is separated into two sections. And so before we get into Matthew 24 and looking at the first part of the Matthew 24 is talking about the day of vengeance, okay? This is the day of vengeance. And it says this here in Luke 21, okay? In Luke 21, it talks about, when Jerusalem is compassed with armies, the desolation thereof is nigh. That is talking about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And it goes down here, for these will be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Okay? That's for Matthew, where was I? And in Isaiah, the day of vengeance for our God. Okay, that is Father in Heaven's day of vengeance, because they killed his son. Father probably really, really heartbroken, having to let go of his son, but his son was just... we don't even have words in the English dictionary to describe the sacrifice that Jesus gave by coming down here to this wicked world. Okay, but he came down here to save us, to save us all. But this is the day of vengeance. Okay, this is where it's all coming to be, and we'll go a little bit. I just want to finish up some evidence on the Illuminati, Freemasons, and the Judaism and Romans. They're all the same, and Catholics, they're all the same. Okay, this is why they all have. You read in the Old Testament, that they baked cakes to the Queen of Heaven. This is why the Catholics will have, Mary as the Queen of Heaven. And this is why Muslims also venerate Mary very highly. Okay, she's very, very highly. And, I've seen many videos where, mosques and Catholic churches coexist right next to each other. So don't be fooled, brothers and sisters. They're all one and the same, okay? And see, the Muslims, or Islam and Judaism, they worship the same God, Yahweh, okay? They worship the same God, Yahweh. And the whole world basically worships Yahweh, because the Christians, 98% of the Christians, believe that Jesus is God. And that is not true. He is the Son of God. I don't know. I don't understand why people... It's because of the doctrines. It's because of the theology. It's because of what the pastors have been spewing from the pulpits for so long, since the Council of Nicaea. That, Jesus and the Father are one and the same. It was the Father that came down and died on the cross. That is not true. That is not true. Okay? There is no way on God's green earth that... our Father in heaven died. Everything, every ounce of atom of air would cease to exist in a second. My goodness me. heaven and earth are about to pass away. And the reason when heaven and earth pass away, it's because Father is roused from his throne and he comes for judgment, which is coming very, very soon. As soon as Father is roused from his throne, okay, and he comes closer to this earth, this is when heaven and earth will pass away, because it can't even face Father because he's so holy and so full of light. This darkness down here on earth will flee from it, and this is why the heaven and earth will pass away. So, but my point, what I'm trying to make here is this was the day of vengeance, that came 70 years later. And quickly before I forget, Daniel chapter 9, right at the beginning it says, I, Daniel, understood the books by Jeremiah that the desolation of Jerusalem was going to take 70 years. And exactly this is what Daniel 9 was talking about, brothers and sisters. Was talking about the desolation and the destruction of Jerusalem. It was going to take exactly 70 years. Okay, so from the time Jesus was came onto this earth, like they say in everything will say in the year of the Lord that Jesus was supposedly born in 6 BC or 4 BC, whenever they say that he was born. Okay, but he was not born of a woman, brothers and sisters. He did not come into the world. He is not a lineage of a human being. He is the literal Son of the living God. Father said, my only begotten Son. Okay, my only begotten, which means to be born, to be brought forth. Out of Father's bosom, Jesus came. Okay, he didn't need a human woman. Okay, this is just to connect them through to the Davidic bloodline, just so the Jews can continue on their blasphemous lie. Okay, but from the so-called worldly view of when Jesus was born to 70 AD, that was the 70 years that Daniel spoke about. They had 70 years to bring in everlasting righteousness, to bring in an end to sin, an end to transgression, to seal up the vision, the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Okay, the Jews, the Israelites, had 70 years to do this, and they didn't do it. They could have had, the new heavens and the new earth could have come to this place if they had accepted Jesus as the Messiah, as the Son of God, and just, brought in all this, the end to the sin, the end to iniquity, all this kind of stuff, and anoint him as the Messiah, but they didn't do it. Okay, and this is why in 70 AD the temple was destroyed. Okay, but everything that Jesus stated he came to do, like do away with all the old laws, that existed until he died on the cross and was rose again by his Father. As soon as he was risen by his Father, everything of the old law was done away with. Everything. Okay, everything. As soon as Jesus Christ was resurrected, and this is why, Jesus is the author and the authority of faith, because Jesus, the Son of the living God, he had to display the most ultimate faith to know that his Papa was going to love him so much and resurrect him, that he was, that it was okay for Jesus to go through this, because he knew through faith that his Papa, his Father in heaven, would raise him again. He didn't raise himself, brothers and sisters. His Father in heaven raised him. And that's why Jesus is the author of our faith, or of faith altogether. That is true faith. To carry on right even to the point of giving your life up because you know and believe and trust in your own Father. Okay? That is beautiful. So, anyway. A few more things over here before we jump into Matthew 25, because Matthew 24, because quite a few people have emailed me and said, "Well, what's next? What's next? If all this is a lie, then what's next?" And we'll get there in a second. So just finishing off this Okay, the shared symbols between Judaism and Freemasonry. I just want to really hammer this home for you to know that I'm not just grasping at straws here. Pardon me. But there is such a connection, okay? Of other things which prove the relationship between Freemasonry and the international Judaism, some symbols that are followed in the rituals of Freemasonry, words, names, and actions of Hebrew origin, such as Boaz, Jekin, and Shabbat. Boaz is a symbol for one of the grandparents of Solomon. And that's the thing, as you've seen on that video. Sol, which is sun, and Mon, which is moon. Okay, the sun and the moon, the time. It is Chronos. Satan created time. And what did he do it for? And this is why the fake sun, everybody's onto it now. Everyone's onto it now. But no one's making the connection that this was written in Genesis 1. And this is why I'm saying Genesis 1 was not our Heavenly Father. He didn't create. Okay? He didn't say, this is the whole reason it says, let us. Okay? Us, the Elohim. Let us make man in our image. Okay? It's not our Father in heaven. It's not our Father in heaven, because our Father in heaven's image is spirit. But these were many, many millions of men and women were created, right? And they're told to multiply and whatever it may be. But the point is on the fourth day, I think, was it? Or on the third day? Whatever. The two great lights were made. And what were they for? For times, seasons, and signs. Jesus himself said there's going to be no signs because you're an evil and wicked generation. So the sun and the moon being for signs is straight up a satanic thing, brothers and sisters. We shouldn't need signs to believe in the Heavenly Father and to believe what Jesus did. We don't need signs. And this is what I'm trying to state, why it's so important that we come out of this delusion of constantly searching for the signs. Constantly looking here and there, and the red heifers and the Passover and this happened, the horses, all this rubbish, brothers and sisters. It's constantly looking for signs. And this is the book of Revelation is full of symbology, right? Exactly what it is said by the Freemasons themselves is their symbols will be their downfall. The whole book of Revelation is symbolic, And it's all, an angel told me this, and an angel told me that, and an angel showed me this, and this and that, and this and that, okay? Whereas Jesus came to represent his Father and say, that, many are going to be doing all this wonderful stuff and say it's in my name, but I'm not going to have any idea of who you are. Wonder why that would be, brothers and sisters. I wonder why that would be, because whose name are people doing it in? In Yahweh, because of the doctrine of the Trinity, where they say Jesus and God are one and the same, and Jesus is really God, and God is really Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is God as well, and he's a man, and they're the Godhead, and all this blasphemous stuff which is not true, but in turn secretly brings you back to say, that our Father in heaven is really the God of the Old Testament as well. He's not. And this is why stuff is done in the name of Yahweh. And Jesus is going to have no idea who you are, because you're not calling on the Father in heaven. You are calling on the old God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, which is Satan. It's very, very, very important that you understand what I'm trying to share with you, brothers and sisters. This is more important than any doctrine you've been told. This is why we have to come out of all this lies, and this is why the truth is coming out now, because I know we're so close. The only reason it's coming out now and we can really see this clearly is because we're so close to the end. Because the closer Father comes to getting up from his throne, okay, and preparing for the judgment day, the thinner and faster the veil is going to fall, okay, because it just can't be held up anymore, and everything that was revealed, everything that was hidden shall be revealed. That's a promise, okay. So we'll continue on here. So, with Solomon's temple, I mean, the Freemasonry buildings are all based off Solomon's temple. And look at Christians. Oh, Solomon was such a great man, No one can build his, his hanging gardens, and, his wealth was never compared to this day and age. And Solomon, which is sol and moon, sun and moon, the signs, okay? The signs and the seasons and time, all wicked things. We don't need any of that. It's in our heart, brothers and sisters, in our heart. Even the calendar of Masons is the same as the Jews. In the Lodge of Scotland, we find that the dates posted on the official correspondence and documents are all according to the calendar and Jewish months, as well as using the Hebrew alphabet. Why, brothers and sisters? Why? Because they're one and the same. Muhammad Abdullah Az-Zaman said in his book, The History of the Secret Societies and Destructive Movements, however, the source, which has no doubt, the source of Freemasonry origins is the Jewish cables, proved that on 1887, Chedive Tawfik Pasha was elected as the head of the lodge. It seems that the golden age of Freemasonry in Egypt reached its peak in the last quarter of the last century because the Jewish system and teachings were taken as the basis for the establishment of the Grand Lodge in 1717. Moreover, it puts its drawings and symbols. However, some ancient Egyptian teachings were represented as well as the theory of Pythagoras. It is noted that the sepulchre, that means 7, candlesticks, which is essentially in the Jewish synagogue, is found in all brothers and sisters, Masonic lodges, which is known in the general Freemasonry as the members who form the legal meetings of the lodge, as well as the seven literary arts: grammar, eloquence, logic, math, geometry, music, and poetry. As for the real symbol of the menorah, according to the Zionists and Masons, it refers to the 7 years during which Solomon has completed the building of the temple. Okay, there is a point that is called the circle point, which they identify with 2 lines from the north to the south and claim that one of them refers to Moses while the other one to Solomon. On the top, you can find the Torah, and on the top of the ladder of Solomon, which indicates the vision seen by Jacob. And that too, when King Charles was coronated as king, that stone that's under his throne was the pillow of Jacob. Okay, they're all one and the same, brothers and sisters, all one and the same. Masons claim that the form and shape of Masonic lodges have remained unchanged since the reign of Solomon until now, taking always the form of the temple. They recite texts from the Torah when opening each new lodge. And I just want to have a look at this. It reminds me of something. I did a video years and years ago, maybe 2020 or 2019, and it was... it was the D-Wave computer, okay, the D-Wave quantum computer. And I said, this is the housing. This is, back when I believed it was the mark of the beast and all that thing existed. And just speaking of the mark of the beast, this is why it's so amazing. Brothers and sisters, hear this logical question and answer it and think about it logically. In all of Matthew 24, Matthew 23, Matthew 24, Matthew 25, when the disciples asked him, when will these things be, which was referring to the destruction of the temple, what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? In those three questions, where does Jesus ever answer or say, and there's coming a mark of the beast, and you're going to get your head chopped off, and you will not be able to buy and sell? Does he ever mention that once? No. There should be straight up showing you the hypocrisy and the false doctrine that is the book of Revelation. You do not need anything but the words of Jesus. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters. And it makes sense too. Out of all the 66 books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and I'm not 100%, but I'll just add John in. I'm still working on that, but I'll just, for the sake of this now, I'll just include John as well. Okay? 4 books out of 66 books, it shows you that, like Jesus said, the way to the truth is narrow. Okay? And many are called, but few are chosen. So wouldn't it be the same with the books? There's 66 books, but only 3 or 4 of them are the truth. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Okay, so the D-Wave computer, is it the chip? Yes, look at this. This here is the chip that goes inside the D-Wave computer, right? This is the exact layout of the temple, of Solomon's temple, of the, where the Holy of Holies was, and all this. Brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, it's all interlinked. It's all, it's just snake-filled, the whole lot of it. The whole lot of it. All right, so back to that. I won't read the rest of it. Let's go over to the next thing, okay? This is Masonic Mentors website, okay? Hanukkah is a joyous festival, also known as the Festival of Lights. It commemorates the 164 BCE dedication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem at the time of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire. Okay, Masonic Connection. First light, right? Let there be light. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, why would our Father in heaven ever need to say, let there be light? Anywhere that's near his presence is light. No darkness can dwell in our Father or near our Father. This should show you that Genesis 1 is not created by the Father in heaven. Because right at the beginning it says that the world was dark and void and without shape, and darkness was over the face of the earth. How can that be? How can that be? You know what I'm saying? So, and this is like, that Satan comes, be not fooled that Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. And the Illuminati is the enlightened ones, right? They think they hold the light. And it's the same with this thing that we've got up in the sky, which we call a sun. It's a mimic. It's a mimic of Father's light. That's why it is sun, S-U-N. When Jesus is the Son, S-O-N. It's a mimic. It's a copy, a dodgy copy at that. And now it's all starting to be revealed. But it's all about, copying and mimicking. Okay, first light is very important in Freemasonry. 3 times during our ceremonies, a Freemason is asked what he most desires, and he answers light, and again more light. Okay, that is their thing that they have to answer for, is for what do you desire the most. Secondly, the temple that is retaken by the Maccabees is the second temple. That's their second desire after light, is for the temple that was taken by the Maccabees to be rebuilt again, okay? It is the rebuilding of this temple that forms the basis of the 2 of the degrees of the Scottish Rite. So that's what they say in their rites. Okay, first we want light, and second we want the temple to be rebuilt, Solomon's temple. Like, I am telling you, brothers and sisters, and like the Star of David, it's the pentagram. It's the pentagram. Yeah. So anyway, let's jump over to Matthew 24. Okay, so now with all this information that we're getting out now, we want to know what's going to happen next. What does this mean for us? If there's no millennial reign, if that's all just BS, if we can only use the words of Jesus, and a lot of it already happened in 70 AD, what does this mean for us today? Well, here's the good news. Here is the really good news, okay? Let's just read Matthew 24. Okay, let's read it together. We'll go over it together. Jesus went out, departed from the temple, and mind you, the best thing to do is to read what happened before, okay? So before Matthew 24, Jesus is scolding hang on a sec. Yes, Jesus is having a huge dig at these Pharisees and Sadducees. So let's just do some reading, okay? Okay, then Jesus, this is Matthew 23. Then Jesus spoke to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you observe. So he's saying, whatever Moses said, you guys are going to observe it to the T. And observe and do, but do not ye after their works. For they shall say and do not. So in other words, they like to tell everybody what to do, but they don't follow their own words. They're off doing stuff in the darkness, which they shouldn't do. Listen to this. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for them to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, whatever that is. I think that's the things on the their patches on their robes and stuff, I think, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the upmost rooms at the feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Jesus, and all of ye are brethren. Okay, we are Jesus's brethren. Okay, we are his brethren because we all have the same Father in heaven. Okay, so we're all brothers and sisters. This is why I address you as such. We're all brothers and sisters, and Jesus is the head of all of us, but we all have the same Father in heaven. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, or in other translations is teachers, for one is your teacher or master, even Christ, even Jesus. I'm trying not to say Christ anymore. Okay, so we've got one Father in heaven and one teacher. Jesus was the only teacher we need, brothers and sisters. This is why I'm going to drum this in more and more and more. Jesus' words only. Jesus is the only teacher we need. We didn't need some fella coming down and having an encounter going, oh, Jesus appeared to me and now I've got 20 books that I can write. And, a lot of it contradicts what Jesus says. Okay? A lot of it contradicts what Jesus says. For an example, I'm going to say this now before I forget. A lot of Paul's writings talk about the grace, okay? Grace and faith, that's all you need. That's all you need, right? And that is, in a way, that is true, but also Jesus makes it very clear that the will of the Father is not only to believe in him to believe in the one that he sent, which is Jesus, but it's also to be charitable, to be kind, to love one another, to feed the homeless, to clothe the poor. It's literal works, if you want to put it that way. It's not hard works. But you can't just say, yes, I believe in Jesus, and then go, yeah, I'm going to go to heaven. It doesn't work like that, because here's the reality. If you really believe that Jesus is the Son of the living God, and that he was sent to this earth to die for us and be risen again by his Father, if you truly, really, really, really believe that within your heart, by default, you will do these things. Because it's like, if your best friend gave you a kidney, or if your best friend jumped in front of and took the bullet for you, would you not, just because you're a decent human being, and and your best friend had children, would you not take those children on as your own and look after them? What makes us any different that if Jesus was so good to us that he gave his life for us so that we may have eternal life and be back with the Father? Pardon me. Why would we not spend every moment down here trying to live in that light of being kind, being merciful, being charitable when we can? It doesn't mean you just got to give everything away so that you are now poor. But whatever you have in excess, okay, when you are fulfilled, whatever you have in excess, share. Share with your brothers and sisters or the people in your neighborhood. Here I live in a smallish, probably about 50,000 people, but it is a smallish country sort of town. And we have a lot of homeless people living here. You constantly see tents. We call them tent cities, basically. Pardon me. And, they come every day. We have, a beautiful lady, Marlene, she runs this, this homeless meals. And, this is why every Tuesday it's my turn to do the meals for the homeless and stuff like this. And, it's so beautiful. For a long time, nearly a whole year, they were very, I don't want to say wary of me, but sort of just, looked down and, didn't have a lot of conversation. But now when I come there on Tuesdays, they're like, hi, Beck, and they tell me, how was your week? And they tell me about their week. And it's just, that is what Jesus wants. He wants us to love one another because no one is more special than the other person. We are all in this together. We are all children of the Most High. Doing this should be a natural desire for us to do when we really believe what Jesus did for us. It's kind of like saying it's the least I can do. The least I can do is be kind to one another and to love one another and to help out when I have excess. Okay? And when you see someone on the side of the road, or even just, when if you're walking on the footpath or whatever, and a person appears like, or they look a bit, a little bit dodgy, don't think like that. You look straight in their eyes and you say, good morning, how are you today? And you will, without fail, you'll see this person, his heart. I'm well, thank you, how are you? It changes a person's demeanor instantly when you don't show them that you're scared of them or that you think they're dodgy or whatever. Brothers and sisters, we have to love one another, okay? That's the most important thing that we can do to kind of even begin to pay back what our Messiah did for us. Okay. Neither be ye called masters, for there was one master or teacher, even Christ, even Jesus. It's a hard habit to get out of. But he that is greater among you shall be your servant. So this is why we always to remain humble. No one is greater than us, brothers and sisters. No one is greater than us. Jesus is the head of us all, but we're all brothers and sisters together, and we all have one Father in heaven. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourself, neither suffer them that are entering to go in. So because you're not going in, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, they are going to stop everybody else from going in as well. This is how evil they are. This is how evil they are. But you know what? I have to remind you every single video I make. Luke chapter 10, verse 19. Jesus says this, I give you power on all the serpents, the scorpions, and over all evil. And nothing will touch you. Nothing will hurt you. He gives us this power. We do not live in the power that Jesus gives us. We live in the fear of what the satanic rule of this world gives us. Okay? 90% of the Christians live in that fear. Okay, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh my goodness, the tribulation's going to start. Oh, the mark of the beast, and oh, my children are going to get oh, the FEMA camps. Oh, the red horseman. Oh, the book of Revelation is playing out. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's their playbook, yes, and it may appear. It may appear. This is why he says wars and rumors of wars. Okay, wars and rumors of wars. We're going to get into Matthew 24 in a second, but this is Matthew 23 still, okay? Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore ye shall receive greater damnation. Okay? This is why he said don't babble and keep going on word after word after word after word for your prayers. Don't repeat your words like the heathens do. And look at the Freemasonry, Illuminati. They're constantly doing rituals which repeat words, okay, which repeat words and carry on. And the same with Judaism. They're forever saying, long phrases and things like this for doing when they're lighting candles and all their Sabbath traditions and rituals that they have. They've got to have 18 minutes before sunset on Friday, that they have to have everything done, otherwise they're going to be cursed. It's just ridiculous. And this is why Jesus gave us the prayer to pray to our Father. And it's simple. It asks for everything that we need. It gives the authority, and it gives the rightful place of our Father in heaven, okay? His hallowed name, his holy name. There's no other name that's holy except for his name, and all the power, the glory, the kingdom forever and ever, okay? And that's the thing. When Jesus came and did what he did, died on the cross and was risen by the Father, that kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, came forever and ever and ever and ever. It never left. Okay, it never left. It will never go away again. We all live in the kingdom of heaven right now, brothers and sisters. We literally live in the authority of Jesus. Okay, a lot of us don't act like it. They act like we're living under the authority of the evil ones. But this is why we don't need this millennial reign to come down here and him establish it. Why would he establish anything on this wicked earth? And for us to walk around with iron rods and be, bashing people over the head and say, yeah, well, we're the rulers now, ha, ha, how do you like it? You treat us like shit for so long, now we're going to walk all over you. See how, it's not how heaven is going to work. It's not how the new heaven and the new earth will work. Okay. Woe unto you, ye blind guides, which say, whoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. And talking about swearing, okay, there's a whole thing here about, the people who swear by heaven, swear by God's throne, and Jesus literally tells us not to do that. He says, don't swear by anything. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. Go and read the doctrines of Paul. Paul is forever saying, I swear to God. Okay? Paul is forever doing that. That's another reason, that if we don't get into Paul's stuff more, But you need, just type it into Google, type it into YouTube. See the difference of Paul's writings to what Jesus spoke, and you can see for yourself. Okay, so we'll just go past all that bit. Ye blind guides. So we'll start here. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithes of mints and anise and cummin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye have done, and not to leave the others undone. Ye blind guides, which strain at the gnat, and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortions and excess. I just while I'm reading this, right, it's just coming to my mind about the book of Revelation again, right? So the consensus is that it was written in about 90 AD, okay? Why is the temple spoken of in there? That, that they should go and measure the temple and leave the outer courts out, because that's going to be trampled on by, the Gentiles for 42 months. Why is that written in there if it's written in 90 AD? Because they have this idea that they're going to build Solomon's temple, brothers and sisters. It's their playbook. Okay? Though blind Pharisees, clean first that which is within the cup and platter, and outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto witted sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead man's bones, and of all uncleanliness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you're full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because ye build the tombs of the prophets, and garnish the speculars, whatever that word is, of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our father, we would have not partaked with them with the blood of the prophets. See, literally, they make their gravestones all nice and pretty and honour them that way, but they're literally the ones who killed them, brothers and sisters. They're literally the ones that killed them. And when when Jesus was brought up to Pontius Pilate and stuff, and they were like, when Pilate washed his hands and said, I wash my hands clean of this, and, the blood's not on me, and they're like, oh, the blood will be on us and our children. Okay? They've taken all the blood of the prophets from Abel until Zechariah and from Jesus, and they've told themselves a curse that the blood will be on them and their children. Okay, they're doomed. They're damned. And here we are, the 90% of the Christian churches stand with Israel. We've got to stand with Israel, because otherwise we're going to be cursed by God. Yeah, cursed by Yahweh. Yeah, you probably will be. Satan will be real angry if you don't stand with Israel. Isis, Ra, Elohim. Okay, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters. Okay, wherefore you are witnesses unto yourself, that you are children of them which killed the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your fathers. Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can you escape the damnation of hell? Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify, and some of them you shall scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city. And the persecuting them from city to city. Okay, in the book of Daniel, it talks about there's going to be 10 kings, and 3 of them are subdued. Those 3 kingdoms that were subdued, one of them was the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, and I can't remember the other one. All 3 of those kingdoms, brothers and sisters, were all Arians. They were all Arians, which means they did not believe in the Trinitarian doctrine and belief that Jesus is God and God is Jesus and whatever. Okay, they were Arians. And this is what the Council of Nicaea, if you have a look at the picture, let's go have a look at it now. Okay, you have a look at this picture here. See if I can make it bigger. Okay, no, I can't make it bigger. But you can see, this is the counselor here, right? Look at this man under here. That is Arian. Okay, this is where we get the name from. They exiled him. And he just stood up. He was a man of God. He stood there and he said, no, Jesus is the Son of God. And there is one Father in heaven. And all this lot here, these scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites and, damned to hell people, they're all like, no, this is how it is. This is the Trinity. And anyone who doesn't believe in this is going to be sent to hell and have eternal damnation. And it was this is the statement of belief that most, if not all, Christian churches hold today. When you go to a new church, say it's Baptist or whatever, you'll see their doctrines or statement of belief. That is the number one thing that you must believe in the Trinity. Okay, the number one thing. And you tell me why the three kingdoms that were subdued were all Arian. They all did not believe that Jesus was the Father. Okay? They didn't, because they didn't know the truth. They didn't know the love. They were still going off their old Yahwehan laws, and they're all, like I said, they're all different heads of the same snake. Anyway, where were we? Okay, so they persecuted them from city to city, and that's what they did. They burnt all their books, okay, anybody who spoke up against the church, and they would exile them out of the city, and they became, discarded waste. Get out of here, we've got nothing to do with this. And these are the real true people of God, that stood up for what was right. That upon you may call all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Okay, see that they've added this and they've put that into the book of Revelation somehow. I remember reading that. Someone got slayed between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which were sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wing, and ye would not. Okay, in the Old Testament, it says an eagle under her wings. The only an eagle doesn't do that. Oh, what is it? What does it say in the Old Testament? I saw a video the other day about how the particular bird that was mentioned, where they're getting, where they're saying, oh, this is where this verse comes from, is a bird that does not do that. I can't remember. Anyway, we'll move on. But a chicken definitely does that. A chicken definitely, will get her little chicklings and put them under her wing. Okay. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. Okay, it's left unto you empty. For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth till you say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And, all right, so let's go to Matthew 24. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple. Okay, so he's just been in the temple going through saying, you're a hypocrite, you scribes and Pharisees, you don't let people in because you can't get in. He just had a real good rant at them, right? So he's just come out of the temple, and now he meets up with his disciples, and they're like, oh, check this out. Check out the beauty of the temple, And Jesus said, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall be not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be all thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be, Jesus? When will be all these stones being thrown down? And then what will be the sign of when you come to do this? And then what is going to be the sign of the end of it all? Okay, so when will these things be and what will be the sign of you coming to do them is one section. Okay, and then the last section is what's going to be the indications of the end of the world. Okay, so notice the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD all accompanies signs, because they need signs. They love signs, right? And this is why Daniel will give, time counts, like, 1,260 days, and times and half a times kind of thing. It gives you time. It gives them times because they needed signs. They wanted signs. But for the end of the world, there is no signs, because Jesus himself said, "You wicked and idolatrous generation, I'm going to give you no sign." Okay? Except for the sign of Jonah. And the reason, again, he did that was because this eclipse crap, the eclipses, which they control, however they're doing it, with their fallen angel magic, they control the sun, the moon, and the stars. Okay? This is why all these important people are born on blood moons and are sacrificed or whatever on blood moons. It's just, right, they need their signs. Okay, this is how they initiate with each other, how they communicate with each other, through symbols and signs. All right. So what I'm trying to say is, for us, there is no signs, but we can see what's going on around in the world. And like I have always said, and I'll stand by this, that we can know pretty much for sure that we're coming up to the very end of it all, just before the heaven and earth pass away and judgment sets in. Because there's no way we can know all this knowledge now without the books being unsealed and revealed, okay? And that's exactly what's happening now. Okay, Jesus answered them and said, "Take heed that no man deceives you. No man deceives you. For many are going to come in my name, saying, 'I am Christ,' and shall deceive many." Okay, he's the Messiah. He's the anointed one. He's the teacher. Okay, like, I'm still looking into this Christ thing. I've never been comfortable with the word Christ either. But, and this is another reason why they use, they'll use that name as a swear word. A lot of people say, "Oh, Christ," or, anyway. So I'm still looking into that, but I still think there's something dodgy with that word Christ, okay? There could not be, and I will come back and I will apologize and everything like that. But as far as I'm concerned, I've got to watch this video that this lady did on it in full. Okay. And you're going to hear of wars and rumours of wars. See that you're not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, there was heaps of wars and rumours of wars at the time, from 63 AD until 70. Okay, there was heaps of wars. Like, all of Europe were pretty much, and the Roman Empire were pretty much in war. Okay, but these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Nations will rise against nations, kingdom against kingdom. And notice the language used too. Kingdom against kingdom. Okay, there were kingdoms back then, not so much now. And there shall be famine and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. The famine and pestilence, the famine came from the fact that from 66 AD, the Roman Empire, the Roman army started coming and trying to destroy the temple, okay? But it was very hard to do because the bricks, each stone that the temple wall was made out of was massive. And it was very hard to penetrate that. But, the Jews obviously knew, this is, we're going to be infiltrated or taken over, so we've got to prepare. So they were so focused on looking after their temple and protecting their temple that they literally forgot to sow, to sow their crops and stuff like this. They literally forgot to do it, so that when the harvest came the following year or the following months or whatever, they had no food because they forgot, because they were so fervent about their beloved temple that they forgot to do this. And, and this is where the famine comes in, because it's written that these people coming towards 70 AD, that they literally were so famished that they were eating their own children, brothers and sisters. Okay, and they would sneak out in the middle of the night just to get a few blades of grass and then, be taken over and killed when they were found. And then obviously pestilence comes to be because, people are doing such horrendous things. It said that it was a lot of Jews actually ended up killing their own kind, because of the state of affairs they were in. Okay, and earthquakes. There's so much evidence of a massive earthquake at that time in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Okay, so this is the beginning of the 3.5 years, which started in 66 AD. Then they shall deliver you up and shall kill you. Okay, and you shall be hated of many nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, they shall betray one another, hate one another. And that's exactly what happened. They were captured. The Romans took a lot of the Jews captive, and made them into prisoners and slaves and stuff like this. And then many shall be offended. I already read that. And many false prophets shall arise and deceive many. There's an article that I'm going to read you in a second where it talks about, I think his name was Simon. Was it Simon? Anyway, this false prophet arose and he had like 30,000 people behind him and basically led them off into the wilderness, and I think they all got slaughtered and whatever. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall grow cold. But he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, for a witness until all nations, and then the end will come. Now, I know in the book of Romans, and yes, I know it's written by Paul, but see, this is the thing. I'm not saying that everything that Paul wrote was false. This is how they do it, brothers and sisters. They put a lot of truth, and this is why it got, the majority of the Christians hold the Paulinian doctrines a lot higher than what Jesus even said. But the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of truth in Paul's writings, but it's the little slithers of lies that come here and there. That's the dangerous part, brothers and sisters, okay? Like I always say, the devil doesn't come out with red horns and a pitchfork and saying, I'm the devil. He doesn't do that. He comes with flatteries and, half-truths and all this kind of stuff. Okay. And I know that Paul, I can't remember, it could be Romans, he says that, I have preached the gospel into all the entire earth. Okay, so this verse here, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. You got to realize that the whole world at that time was just that area. That was the known world, right? And so Paul gives himself credit for the one who has done that, who spread the gospel to the entire known world then. And then it says, when ye therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. So you go into the book of Daniel, and only in the chapter 9 and chapter 12 is it spoken of the abomination of desolation. Both of them give timestamps. The 70 years, or the church will say 70 weeks. It literally says in Daniel 9:2, it's 70 years for the desolation of Jerusalem. But they want to. It could be a dual prophecy. 490 years leading to Jesus on the cross. That's all well and good. I'm not here to debate that. But the point I'm trying to make is they have. Daniel 9, Daniel 12, they both have timestamps of how long these things will be to the exact day. Okay? And this is the difference. Jesus, the prophecy was there to give them warning so that they would see this. When they see these things happen, you need to flee to the mountains. So that's why they said when you see this abomination that Daniel was speaking about happen in the holy place, which was the temple, then you need to get out of there. Okay? And this is very obvious too. It says, let them which are in Judea, brothers and sisters, how anyone can put the book Matthew 24 to this day and age is incredible. For one, Judea doesn't even exist anymore. And two, it's speaking of one place that this is going to happen. So you know how the church puts Matthew 24 into our day and age, that when we see this futuristic abomination that's going to happen, or when Satan's going to stand in the temple and sacrifice a pig or something like this, we're all going to know all around the world, and then we're going to have to run into the mountains. Like, no, brothers and sisters, it's all fear-based tactic. This has already happened, okay? Let him which is on the housetop come down. Again, the housetops back in those days, in Jerusalem, they were all flat. People used to literally not so much live on their housetops, but they, they worked up there, they did stuff on there because it was a flat roof, so they could, use that for storage or whatever it was. This is why they say, those on the housetop. We don't have that this day and age. Who's in the field, take their clothes, woe unto them that with child, woe unto them that are with child and give suck in those days. And it's the same thing. I was looking for it the other day, but I know it's there. Please, somebody put it in the comments if they find it. But either in Matthew or in Mark or Luke, it talks about, I think when Jesus was on the cross, the women were weeping for him. And Jesus says to him, don't weep for me, women, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Because something about a day is coming, about something to do with this here. Okay, that the children and those that suck at the breast, they're going to be the ones that should be wept over. Okay, and he's talking about what I just explained before, that because of the famine, mothers ended up eating their own children, brothers and sisters. That's literally what happened. That's literally written in historical records. That's why it was so bad, and this makes so much sense why it says, 2 verses down, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Okay, so it's never going to be a great tribulation again. Jesus is talking about the time that's coming from 66 AD to 70. That is the 3.5 years, the 42 months, okay? The 1,260 days. That is going to be the Great Tribulation, a time that's never been as bad as was before or after that time. We are not looking for the mark of the beast. We are not looking for, FEMA camps or all this kind of stuff. Okay? And there shall... Oh, here we go. And pray that your flight may not be on the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. It's exactly when it happened. Okay, it's exactly when it happened. You can read all about that in the book of Maccabee. That the beginning of the takeover from the Roman armies in 66 AD, it started on Passover, brothers and sisters, because all the Jews from all around came to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, right? The Roman armies weren't stupid. They were like, what's the best time to do this? Oh, when the whole lot of them are in Jerusalem. They're not stupid. It was a perfect time to do this. Perfect war mentality. Okay, if you're going to take over someone, wait until they're all gathered together. And it was on the Sabbath day. Okay. And then shall be great tribulation. We just did that. Except those days be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. For the elect's sake, those days were shortened. That was to the 3.5 years. Okay, it was the 3.5 years. And those people who knew, like the apostles and the disciples, because it says all this stuff will happen in your generation, as it comes down here. All this stuff will happen in your generation. It was all the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the people that pierced Jesus, brothers and sisters. The literal people that literally stuck the spear in Jesus' side. All these people would see this happen in their generation. because it was a punishment for them, not for us. Okay, it was a punishment for them. And, okay, so this is a big one. Then, if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there he is, believe it not. Now, who did that? Who did that, brothers and sisters? Paul. Paul just happened to have this mystical experience in the desert, brothers and sisters, where he was like, the people that were with him got blinded by a bright light, and only Paul had this conversation with Jesus. And Jesus himself says, if any man says unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there he is, believe it not. Simple. Jesus' words only. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets. Okay? And Paul brings across a false Christ. And Paul is a false prophet. Look what happens. And they shall show great signs and wonders. Gee, who did that? Paul. Insomuch that if it was possible, they shall deceive even the very elect. Okay? Who's the very elect? At that time it was the Jews, okay? What did Paul do? Remember, Paul was the one that got bitten by the snake, and everybody freaked out because they're like, oh my goodness, that's a poisonous snake. But no, Paul didn't die. Okay, Paul didn't die from the snake. And, Paul was the one that was casting out demons and raising people from the dead and all this stuff. Okay? Believe it not. Jesus warned us about him. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say to you, behold, he's in the desert. Where did Paul see Jesus? In the desert. Go not forth, behold, he's in the secret chambers. Believe it not. It's the same with Islam. What's her face? Gabriel was supposedly told Muhammad in a cave. He gave him the whole Quran. Okay, who's in the secret chambers. Don't believe them. For as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there the eagles shall gather together. So, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Okay? And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Okay? Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that the summer is nigh. So likewise, when you see all of these things, what things? The things we just went through, know that it's near, even at the door. Verily, this is the most important one. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass until all these things that we just read will be fulfilled. This is including this part, brothers and sisters, where the Son of Man is going to appear in the clouds of heaven. Okay? Brothers and sisters, you are to realize, don't get upset that we'll just call it a rapture for the sake of just ease and understanding, okay? It's very likely that this is the rapture, okay? And it has already taken place because it was for the deliverance and the escape of those that loved, and obeyed Jesus and the will of the Father. Okay, and the wrath and the day of vengeance came for the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees and all those wicked people, and even the people that pierced Jesus. Okay, this is why it says, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye will see him in the book of Revelation. Okay, even those that pierced him. Okay, the half-truths, brothers and sisters. So this was the vengeance of God for this particular thing because they killed God's Son. And it makes sense. It makes sense that this should have happened, okay? And that this was, and then we have in the book of Acts where Jesus ascends back to his Father. And then, the two angels or two men are standing there and says, why are you staring up, in dismay? The same way that you see Jesus leave, he will come back to you again. Where? Into the clouds. So those two men or two angels were saying to those people that were there, I think it was John and Peter or whatever, doesn't matter who it was, but they were saying, you will see the same way he left will be the same way he's going to return. You standing here, all in your generation, you'll see all these things. So what does that mean for us? Okay, what does that mean for us? So everything up from verse 1 to 34, or verse 4 to 34, this generation shall not pass till all of these things that I just mentioned to you in the last 34 verses shall be fulfilled. Okay? That generation, which was the generation Jesus was talking to, which he was a part of, with the disciples, with the prophets, with the Sadducees and the scribes and the Pharisees, the people who literally pierced him, that generation, okay? Once that was all done, that generation can pass. Now, this is where we are at, brothers and sisters. This is where we're at. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall never pass away. Okay, my words, this Jesus' words, will never pass away. Okay, because once this generation was passed here and all the things were fulfilled, when he was resurrected when he was resurrected by the Father, everything was fulfilled and completed, 100% full stop, period. Okay, and this is as soon as he was resurrected, the old laws from the Old Testament were all done away with, because Jesus, that was the whole purpose of him coming and fulfilling everything completely. Okay, and it was 99% fulfilled. Okay, it should have been 100% filled, but Father even gave him more time, right up until 70 AD. Okay, he said, you've got 70 years to do this. Put an end to sin, bring in everlasting righteousness and anoint the Messiah. But they didn't do it. So in 70 AD, then it was completely done and over with. Okay, but now let's go back to us. So heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and that hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. Okay, so here you could think, all right, why is it saying, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be? If we've just found out here that the coming of the Son of Man in the clouds has already passed, then what does it mean here? Okay, and we can distinguish the difference because of the eating and drinking part. Okay, people are eating, drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. This has to be now and not back then, because back then, like I was explaining, they were full of famine and pestilence and war, and they're eating their own children. This is not the same. This is now. We're talking about now. It's going to be like the days of Noah were, when people like Noah are begging for you to see the truth, warning you, are standing on that wall and can see in the horizon, the end, and are like, come on, everybody, come on, open your eyes, see the truth, come out of the darkness and come into the light. It's time, and also too, we're so preoccupied. Eating and drinking is everything, right? Marrying and giving in marriage. In the book of Luke, it says, they're planting and building. That's what we're doing right now. We're eating, we're drinking, we're planting, we're building. They were not doing that in 66 to 70 AD. They were defending the temple, and starving to death and eating their own children. It was a completely different scenario here. Okay, and also too, the days of Noah was when giants, Nephilim, DNA manipulated beings were on the earth. Okay, they're still on the earth right now, but they're in disguise, but they're going to be revealed. They are being revealed. And I think that solar eclipse has a lot to do with the unveiling and unmasking of these other entities that are here with us. We just haven't seen them before. And this is another reason why we know we're coming to the end. Okay, it's just a different shade of a paintbrush, brothers and sisters. People want to get upset. Oh, there's no rapture. That it's still the same outcome, brothers and sisters. There's still the same outcome. If we are true childs of God, the Father in heaven, and we love His Son, Jesus, we still have the same outcome. We're still going home. Whether we are taken up to heaven or whatever it may be, or we are going to witness the destruction of the wicked with our eyes, either way, brothers and sisters, this is happening soon, and we're about to have a new heaven and a new earth. Because this one's going to pass away as soon as Father gets up off His throne and comes and gets ready for judgment. There's actually something I want to read to you in 2nd Esdras, which talks about the judgment. So I will read that to you shortly. But this is definitely talking about now. That's why you can make that distinction. Okay, so and also to do with, the DNA manipulation of the what. We can't really talk about that or go there, but you know what I'm talking about, the jib-jab, all that kind of stuff, transhumanism, computer chips, all this kind of stuff. We're in those days where they're working overtime, brothers and sisters, to try and take any truth away from you, like I said, because they can't enter into heaven. So they're like, damn it, if we're not going in, you ain't going in either. So they've got to do as much as possible, as fast as possible now, so that you'll be lost before this event happens. This judgment event happens, or this or the Father being removed from the Father being aroused from the throne happens. They've got to move quickly now, because it's only a matter of time. Only the Father knows. He was the one, who instituted this all, and He's the one who's going to put a conclusion to it all. Okay. They knew not until the flood. Until the flood came and took them all away, and so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And then two in the field, one shall be taken, one shall be left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken and the other left. Now, there's lots of controversy around who's going to be taken, who's going to be left. A lot of people are like saying, we're going to stay here we're the ones that are left, and the bad people are the ones that are going to be taken. And then other people are like, we're the ones that are taken, the bad people are going to be left here, and all that. Either way, brothers and sisters, trust the plan. Trust the plan of the Almighty God, our Father in heaven. If we stay here and the bad ones are taken and destroyed, yay. If we're taken up to heaven and the evil ones are left here, then yay. You know what I mean? Does it really matter? 2 women grinding at the mill, one will be taken, the other left. See, this can't be the destruction of the temple of 70 AD either. Okay, because this is talking about in an instant type of a situation. Okay, the destruction of the temple went for 3.5 years. It went for 3.5 years. So this isn't like in a moment, in the blink of an eye. And yet, again, I want to stress, there is a lot of truth in the Gospels that, in the documents, in the doctrines that Paul writes, yes. But what I'm telling you is the half-truths, the little slither of serpents that run through there. That's what I'm telling you. Be very careful of. I'm not saying go chuck your Bible out now, but I'm just saying if anything you want to put faith in, put it in the words of Jesus, okay? And everything else, use absolute discernment. You've got to be on top of the ball now, brothers and sisters. You've got to be on top of the ball. It's the same as the Old Testament. People go, oh, but, Psalms 91, look at how beautiful that is. Yes, it's one of my favourite verses of all times. But look at all the other stuff that is written about what that God did. You've got to weigh it up. We've got to be so discerning now. It's, there's no time for just mucking around. So watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord does come. Same thing. You can distinguish between the two because 70 AD, that lasted for 3.5 years. So, you know what I'm saying? This here is a moment in time. You don't know what hour, you don't know what hour he's going to come. And it's going to all happen in an hour, right? But know this, that if a good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would have not suffered his house to be broken up. Same thing, you can distinguish, okay? Because, it's giving the analogy of quick thief. A thief doesn't hang around for 3.5 years. He does his job, in, out, get out, without waking anybody up. So therefore ye be ready, for such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Okay, so it's not going to be any of these Jewish Illuminati Freemason festivals. It won't be. If anything, I got a real, if I want to say anything about, dates or anything, I know people are like, dates, but, I would say, like I said to you in my other videos, in 2022, on May 19th, I had my one and only, and it wasn't even a rapture dream. The more I think, I keep saying that I had my one and only rapture dream. But what happened in my dream literally was this. I'm like walking on a sports field, big green oval, right? Beautiful sunny day. You could tell it was like right in the middle of the day. And I was, how there's like usually a hill, and then there's like the seating, not the stadium, but the seating arena where people sit undercover. I was like walking up that hill next to the seating area. I looked to my left because I heard this like fire cracking noise, and I look, and the clouds literally form a big circle portal, if you will, and they were burning and crackling, which looks, like when you make with your kids an old treasure map, pirate treasure map, and you burn the outside of the paper, and how it, like that. The clouds were doing that, but as they were burning and crackling, I literally could feel the heat. And I'm looking at this, it's huge in the sky, and then I see the silhouette of Jesus, and then I wake up. So it wasn't even a rapture dream, but, this is the one and only dream I've ever had anything like that in my whole life. Usually when I dream, it's just nonsensical. It's just all over the place or whatever. And, and it's very strange for me because since 2016, I was a hardcore rapture channel. That's all I thought about all day, all night. I never had dreams about it. Because people always say to me, oh, but what about these people who have dreams and visions and all this type of stuff? Jesus says nothing about dreams. Jesus says nothing about dreams. Okay, he says nothing about dreams. So whatever people focus on, you generally will tend to dream about it. Okay, and I'm glad I didn't have all these rapture dreams. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be in this truth season as I am right now. But yeah. So getting back to May 19th, yeah. So I had that dream on May 19th, 2022, and I did videos about it, in 2022, and then in 2023, I'm like, yep, this is it, because, And then there was a whole big hype last year of May 22nd, remember? And everyone jumped on that bandwagon. I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty close, May 19th. So did a whole Rapture watch over that weekend. And, I sort of dropped the Rapture coming towards the end of last year. I was like, no. There's things that I just got to look into. And all this revelation started coming. And, so totally dropped the Rapture watching stuff. But it's always stuck with me, because it's a pretty incredible dream. And then this year happens to be like three things. One, it's 40 days pretty much after the solar eclipse, okay, May 19th. Two, it's literally Pentecost, okay. And three, The Simpsons did an episode where literally Homer predicts the rapture on, first he said May 18th, and then, the whole town went up to the mountain getting ready for the rapture, whatever, and then it passed, and everyone started mocking at him and carrying on. And then he went back home and he made some more calculations, and he ended up that he was a day off, so it was May 19th. And I'm like, is this the year? Is this the year? So, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out here because I don't want to do the date setting anymore. But, with the elite in control of this all, with Revelation being a huge playbook, is maybe not the deliverance or the rapture, but maybe it is a rapture. Maybe it is their blue beam alien fake invasion rapture scenario. I don't know. Maybe it's their final hurrah, their final big test on May the 19th. Because, effectively they say that, on Pentecost is when, the Holy Spirit was given and all this. Which, see, again, the Holy Spirit was given before that. Jesus gave the Holy Spirit to his disciples. It literally says that. So, you know what I mean? We've got to really look into, this whole tongues of fire. And yes, it may have happened, but, these are things that we just have to be Bereans and just go hardcore and study and ask Father, are they true? Is all these other, things that have happened, is it true? Because he says it's going to come on a day that we think not. So, maybe May 19th, Pentecost has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought I'd just share that with you. So anyway, I'm going to cut this video off now. Just before I do, there's an article here. The Church of Christ in Zion, Illinois, the Destruction of Jerusalem, Part 1. Brilliant little article here. I will link it. You can read it yourself. This talks about, it says, I'll just read the first little bit. The 24th chapter of Matthew is one of the most abused passages in the Bible. Premillennialists use this chapter as a springboard for all sorts of fanciful teachings and wild speculation. In this article, we want to examine the context of the chapter and see its application to the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Okay, then it talks about Flavus Josephus, which in my videos a couple of moons ago, I made a thing that Flavus Josephus, or Josephus, is actually Joseph of Arameus, the one who took Jesus off the cross and put him into his temple, into his tomb. Okay, and they've just changed his name. And then gives the thing about false Christs. And it says Josephus claims that there was an Egyptian false prophet that did the Jews more mischief than the former, for he was a cheat and pretended to be a prophet also. And he got together 30,000 men, that's who I was talking about before, that were deluded of him, and he led round from the wilderness to Mount Zion, which was called Mount of Olives. Okay, and wars and rumors of wars, talks about all the wars, famine and pestilence, like I said before, the earthquakes, there was a huge earthquake. It says, there's just a note about the earthquakes. And as to earthquakes, many are mentioned by writers during a period just previous to 70 AD, where there were earthquakes in Crete, Samaria, Miltius, Chisos, Samos, Laodicea, Hierapolis, Colossos, Campania, Rome, and Judea. It's interesting to note that the city of Pompeii was much damaged by an earthquake occurring on February the 5th, 63 AD. There you go. Fearful events from heaven. It's well noted by not only Josephus, but by 4 or 5 other historical writers, where it says here, thus there was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year. Thus also before the Jews' rebellion, so great a light shone around the altar and the holy house, that it appeared to be a bright daytime, which light lasted for about half an hour. So there's this bright light over the temple, right? So could this be where the so-called tongues of fire came down? And you know what I mean? And it goes on to say that they basically saw in the skies chariots having a war in heaven. Okay, so the so-called rapture, or however the deliverance in that generation, I think already happened, brothers and sisters. So I'll leave a link to this article. You can read it more for yourself. But I want you to note, brothers and sisters, that what we're coming up to now is the dissolving of all falsehoods and the revealing of all evil and truth. And this is why people like me, who was a hardcore rapture believer and hardcore, that kind of just full steam ahead with that. No one could change my mind or anything like that. That's why people like me who have nothing, who have not accomplished anything in life, have this deep desire just to seek the kingdom of heaven, and nothing else on this earth is even remotely as interesting as this. I have quite a few comments that say, "Oh, Rebecca's she chases every little shiny ball and every new rabbit hole that comes down." All I'm going to do is be gracious and say I love you all. I love you all, brothers and sisters, even if you are terrible and horrible to me. The majority of people are really loving and really on the same journey as me. And, that's where I get my strength from. And, all I want to say, if you don't think I've answered properly, what does that mean for us? This is all you need to do. Jesus' words only: be kind, be loving, be charitable, give whatever you have excess, okay, share. Surround yourself with lovely things, joyful things, kind things. Look, you can do simple things like people may think, oh, what can I do? I don't have money to, to feed the homeless or anything like this. There is so many things that you can do just by being nice and friendly, walking down the street. You can write on a piece of paper and, copy it or duplicate it 50 times about how Jesus loves you and how he came to die for you because he loves you so much and he wants, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things you can do. People who knit or people who sew, you could maybe knit little baby booties or little bonnets, and then give it little tiny ones and give it to the hospital for little premature babies. People who do each week when you go shopping, even if you just get an extra packet of cheap pasta, and a can of tomato soup, they're usually quite cheap, all those kind of things. If every month when you've stocked a little bit up, you've got a box full of food, bring it down to your like your food pantry place and all this thing. There is so much we can do, brothers and sisters. And this is how we're supposed to live, because if everybody did these things and loved on one another, we wouldn't be where we are at the moment. We would have heaven on earth. But until then, we've got to be faithful. We've got to, Jesus' words only, be kind and considerate, and know that we're in the season. We are in the season of these final moments. Okay? Stay away from the book of Revelation. Stay away from the sign searching and constantly watching the red heifers and, every news article about, prepping and what's the latest thing that's happening, on the news, and the latest school shooting and stuff. Every time we watch those things, our focus gets given to the enemy. Okay? Get out of it. Get your head and your heart and your mind out of that garbage and read the words of Jesus. Practice the words of Jesus. And I tell you, and be appreciative for what we have. A lot of people, the rapture doesn't happen, then I'm going to be homeless and I'm going to be, I can't stand this world anymore and I hate this world and, blah, blah, blah. That's not in love, brothers and sisters. You are got to be thankful that you're even alive and that you are so special that Father chose you for this point in time in history to witness the dissolve of the wicked. Okay, this is an incredible moment to be alive, and we should be very humbled and blessed by that. Okay, like he says, no one knows the day or the hour when the heavens and earth pass away, but that's what we're literally waiting for. Okay, and that's going to come very soon. That's going to come very soon because you can see the uptake and the acceleration pedal of the wicked and their plans and, and the fact that we have the internet and that everything is available, it's a ticking time bomb, okay, to this last moment. But don't let the enemy have power over you. Don't focus on anything that they're doing. It's no avail to you. It's no avail to your spiritual life or your strength or the armor of God, okay? Stay away from all of that stuff, and I guarantee you're going to have a much more peaceful life. Love on your families. Be in the community. Enjoy every single moment that you have, for we're not promised tomorrow. But know this, if you truly, truly, truly love Jesus, and you truly, truly, truly love the Father in heaven, and try your very best, that when you breathe your last breath, whether you get hit by a car or whatever happens to you today, tomorrow, whenever it does, that as soon as that moment happens and you die, you know where you're going. You know the second that happens, you're going to open your eyes and you will be forever safe, forever in the presence of Father. And then, the rest is history, as they say. Eternity starts then. So it doesn't matter. This is why we're not to be scared of death. It's wonderful. I always say, if it wasn't for my kids, take me now. Take me now. I'd love to go home now. But, we're here. We've got to do our work as Bereans. And then we've got to share that work. We've got to share that work so that other people can wake up and come out of this captivity that we've all been put under. All right, brothers and sisters, I love you so much. Yeah. Hang on. All right, I want to read you two things from the second book of Esdras before I go. Two wonderful things. And this is the reason why they take these books out and then demonize them. Okay, because somebody asked me the other day on a comment, does that mean that we don't read the Apocrypha anymore? No, you read whatever, read it all, but use discernment, okay? Okay. So this is 2 Esdras chapter 2, starting at verse 42. I, Ezra, saw on Mount Zion a great multitude that I could not number, and they were praising the Lord with songs. In the midst was a young man of great stature, taller than any of the others, and on the head of each of them he placed a crown. But he was more exalted than they, and I was held spellbound. Then I asked an angel, "Who are these, my Lord?" And he answered and said to me, "These are they who have put off mortal clothing and have put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of God. Now they are being crowned and receive palms." Then I said to the angel, who is that young man who is placing the crowns on them and putting palms in their hands? He answered and said to me, he is the Son of God. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. He is the Son of God, whom they confessed in the world. So I began to praise those who stood valiantly for the name of the Lord. Then the angel said to me, go tell my people how great and how many are the wonders of the Lord God you have seen. All right, so that's fantastic. It talks literally about the Son of God. Okay, now, next one I want to read to you is, okay, what I call the rapture. The rapture verse. Okay, this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 6. I'll start from 15. Start from 13. And he answered and said to me, rise to your feet, and you will hear a full resounding voice. And if the place where you are standing is greatly shaken, while the voice is speaking, do not be terrified, because the word concerns the end, and the foundations of the earth will understand that the speech concerns them. Okay, so the earth is going to tremble because they know at the end they're going to dissolve, right? They will tremble and be shaken, and they will know that their end must be changed. When I heard this, I got up to my feet and listened. A voice was speaking, and its sound was like the sound of mighty waters. It said, the days are coming when I draw near to visit the inhabitants of the earth. Okay, this is Father, okay, because remember at the beginning it says a full resounding voice will come to you, okay? So the days are coming when I will draw near to the earth. I will draw near to visit the inhabitants of the earth. And when I require from the doers of iniquity the penalty of their iniquity. And when the humiliation of Zion is complete, when the seal is placed upon the age that is about to pass away, then I will show these signs. The books shall be opened before the face of the firmament, and all shall see my judgment together. That reminds me of that Catholic prophecy. It's called the illumination of consciousness, or conscience, sorry. And apparently in that prophecy, two celestial bodies will collide, and then everybody will be able to see, the reality of who they are, basically. So, children a year old shall speak with their voices, and pregnant women shall give birth to premature children at 3 or 4 months, and they shall live and leap about. Sown places shall suddenly appear unsown, and full storehouses shall suddenly be found to be empty. The trumpet shall sound aloud, and when all hear it, they shall suddenly be terrified. At that time friends shall make war on friends, like enemies. The earth and those who inhabit it shall be terrified, and the springs of the fountain shall stand still, so that for 3 hours they shall not flow. Okay, and that reminds me of Matthew 24. It says, that the angels will be held back from the four corners of the earth. Okay. It shall be that whoever remains after all that I have foretold to you shall be saved, and shall see my salvation and the end of the world. And they shall see those who were taken up, who from their birth have not tasted death, and the heart of the earth's inhabitants shall be changed and converted to a different spirit. For evil shall be blotted out, the deceit shall be quenched, faithfulness shall flourish, and corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which has been so long without fruit shall be revealed. There you go, brothers and sisters. So evil will be blotted out and deceit will be quenched. Okay, this has to be the end, because after 70 AD, evil still existed, okay? They didn't bring an end to iniquity and sin. So that's the exciting part, and I love the second book of Esdras. Absolutely wonderful, and take everything with a grain of salt. Like I said, use your discernment, read everything that you can find, because even Jesus himself says, if every writing and every word of Jesus was to be written, there wouldn't be enough books in the world to contain them. You got to think about that. But what we do have is we have the Gospels and the words of Jesus now. And that's all we need at the moment. And everything else we can just use discernment with and, work through that. Take it to Father in prayer. So with that wonderful scripture in mind of, the trumpet and our bodies being changed into incorruptible and immortal, bodies, this is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. So, I love you, brothers and sisters. I pray that the Father blesses you. I pray that the Son blesses you. I pray that this video blesses you, and that you may continue to go on and do further searching and researching and studying and prayer. And I will see you in the next video. God bless you. I love you. Bye.